Good morning. How is everyone? Oh no, Marty. And then the more you rub it, the more it irritates it. Who knows if it's even still in there or if we've just rubbed it so bad it now just is irritated, right? I'm guessing you tried an eye wash and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh, that's the worst.
If it keeps up, I'm going to go to the urgent care, but I have to work at 3 o'clock too. So,
Ugh. Okay. Well, if it's super becoming an issue, I completely understand. So,
okay.
don't be super uncomfortable, right?
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Because you're making my eye hurt just sitting here. And it's really all about me. So let's focus, right? I'm just kidding, Marty. Just trying to lighten it up a little. I know when we have those awful weeks, right? Uh-oh, you're muted now. I don't know if you're talking to me.
I said I'm going to turn off my video for a little bit.
Okay, that's totally
All
fine. No
right.
worries. I hope it gets better.
Thanks.
All right. Um, we have a couple minutes. I'm going to put a doc in the chat for you. This just goes along with what I'm talking about today. Okay. It's not something that you're going to turn in. It's not anything like that. It's just sometimes I know you using paper and you like to, it's taking too long for you to catch up. Right. So this is just a document you could view separately. It's all the same stuff that's on my slides. So it's nothing new. Right. And I'm going to work through it on the slides, but just in case you want it, you can use it. Does that make sense? Okay. And so you'll have to make a copy if you want to write on it. But if you just want to look at it, you can just have it up on your screen. So no stress. I'm not trying to confuse anyone. I'm just showing you because I know some people want to print things out. Some people are writing on an electronic screen. It doesn't matter to me. Okay, so Yesenia's here. Marty's here. Aaron's here. Amari's here. Olivia. Angelina. Ashley. AJ. All right. So I'll wait just like 2 more minutes while everybody's getting here. I didn't enter your box office scores yet just because I didn't have time. But I will enter them. You all got full credit. You all did great. So no worries about that. Okay. It looks like Amari's still connecting to audio, having trouble. Olivia, I'm not sure if you were trying to come to my office hours this morning, but you have to click on the office hours link, not the class time link.
I was trying to test Zoom on my phone, and I think I accidentally tried to get in.
No worries. No
Sorry
worries.
about that.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't trying to come see me and then it was the wrong place.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
yeah, no worries. All right. All right, so today we're going to change gears a little bit because today we're going to talk about percents and it's going to be a little less groupy. I'm not even sure I'm going to put you in breakout rooms today. So, but it's going to be more interactive. So, like with all of us. So, you're going to type answers in the chat. You're going to be working on problems. Maybe you'll annotate on my screen or at least tell me how to do things, those kind of things. Okay. And I sent you guys an email this morning. Some of you may have got it, some of you did not. About just a reminder, don't forget to do your office hours activity. I know AJ's done it, Marty's done it, Yesenia's done it, Deshay has done it. Valerie's done it. So don't forget that's due Monday night. So now you only have one more opportunity. It's bright and early Monday morning. Yeah, so I guess I'll be seeing you all bright and early Monday morning, sometime between 8 and 8:50 a.m. Yeah, you're welcome. So if for some reason that does not work for you, you can send me a message and we'll see if we can fit you in, right? But my office hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 8:50 a.m. and Wednesday nights from 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So I did see a couple people last night and I saw a couple people this morning too. And it was very quick and painless, right? Yesenia, Marty, AJ, Deshay, not long, right? It's not like we chat forever. I mean, we can if you want, but it can be pretty brief. The idea is, do you know how to get into office hours? That's the idea. And then just to touch bases on anything super important, because we're going to have a quiz coming up. I know. Yeah. It's going to be a mini quiz. Okay. So it's going to be a little baby quiz. But it's good to touch bases with me and make sure you know how to do all those things. Okay. All right. So that being said, I shared a doc in the chat with you that'll be our problems that we're going over today. You don't have to use that document if you don't want. You will see everything on the screen. That's just in case you want it. Okay. So pay attention to it. Don't pay attention to it. Doesn't matter to me, but definitely pay attention to class. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because I want to share something super cool with you guys. 1 second. All right, you can see my screen. Yes. The Virtual Student Life Center, one of the problems with COVID or the things that kind of detracted from your college experience was not being on campus, right? Not interacting with other people, not having clubs that were meeting face to face. Some of you, it was your first semester last semester, so meeting new people and all those things. And but one of the benefits was it made them put a lot more stuff online, which is sometimes more accessible to you in strange hours, right? Depending on your work schedule or things like that. So there is the Virtual Student Life Center, which is through the Office of Student Life and Leadership. This link, just like all my links when they're in the slides, is live. So it brings you to an MCC homepage, but look at all this amazing stuff that's here. Virtual events, leadership programs, resources and services, multicultural and social justice programs, ASMCC, student government, which I actually have your student government president in my 1030 class. So if we have any secret questions for her, we can ask her. Civic engagement, clubs and organizations, and fun things to do. It also leads you to the newsletter, which is with the Thunderbirds. So some of you that are interested in journalism, communication, maybe you want to hook up with, wait, can I write in the newsletter right now, right, from my house? Also some clubs. So you can use any of these things. I haven't clicked on this virtual events in a while, so I'm going to click on it and see what it says. So They had an event on January 26th. They have another event on February 4th. This is the Life and Times of African Americans, and it's a sociology professor, Rod Golden, who is amazing, by the way. I've seen several presentations by him. And so Thursday, February 4th at 1:30, and it gives you the password. Do you see that? So there's also Civic Action Hour, if that interests you. And they have that going on weekly, as far as I know. Yeah. Look, free dental screening. Isn't that awesome? Our dentistry school is doing free dental screening Saturday, February 6th. Look who they take too. They take any kid who's 5 and up. So if you have the need for a dentist and you don't have health insurance, dentists are not cheap, right? Or dental insurance, you could use this opportunity. So there's so much going on here. You could look, you can just keep scrolling down. We have so much going on here. Students offering support every Friday at 12 o'clock. They have student ambassadors. So did you ever have questions, concerns, needs? Just log on. And look, that was just one thing I clicked on, right? That was just the virtual events tab. You could click on any of these. There's a ton of them. I like the fun things to do tab. The fun things to do tab has virtual tours, puzzles, games, and crafts, how to stay active, those kind of things. Any of you who are museum groupies, look at this. Tour the Smithsonian, the Louvre, famous museums. This is always a favorite. Live animal cams, right? Who doesn't love a good animal cam? Let me tell you. And then if you have kids or you want to hang out, there's all kinds of stuff. Look, a Hogwarts virtual escape room. Ha, ha, ha. So this is all stuff that came about due to COVID. So some of it was there, but they really beefed it up. And like I said, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Okay. So any questions about this it's Thunderbird Thursday. That's why I was sharing that, because we're Thunderbirds and it's Thunderbird Thursday. So that was fun things on the MCC website. If you haven't done some of our events and activities, they are amazing. They really are really, really good stuff. I try to go to as many of them as I can. So, okay. Any questions? Anyone been to any events on campus when we could go on campus? Okay. And just in case you're wondering, is anyone wondering about fall? What's happening with classes for the fall? Nobody cares. Only me. I just got an email from my boss people that were saying what they're trying to do within safety guidelines is have as many face-to-face classes as possible in the fall. Okay. So, but right now we really don't know what that looks like. So we also realize that some students like this option, live online. So we are, at least in the math department, still going to offer some live online sections, but the majority of our classes, we're going to try to get face-to-face at least part of the time if we can, right? So that's the goal. But they've also pushed back our return to campus. Our return to campus was supposed to our first phase was supposed to start February 1st. Not going to happen because that's Monday. So they've pushed it back. They haven't told us when the next date is return to campus. Some people are saying March 1st, some people are saying after spring break. But as we get the vaccine rollout and we see how testing goes and what guidelines are, we're trying to get back to campus as quickly as possible, but we also want to do it safely because we don't want to get you back to campus and then go, haha, just kidding, go home, right? Okay, so that's my update. That's what I know. Any questions for me? No? Is it Sleepy Thursday? We're 2 weeks in. 2 weeks. Yeah, I don't know if you're marking it down on a calendar, but I used to do that. I mean, sometimes I still do. I'm just saying, right? Okay. So I want you to do a 3, 2, 1, go class chat with what is a percent? You ever thought about that? What is a percent? Type in the chat. Don't hit enter yet. Okay, let's do 3, 2, 1, go. Nice. Read through all those answers. Nice. So the ones that say something about 100 is really important, right? Because that's what a percent really means. By the way, have you ever thought about that word, percent? Per means division, right? And cent is a word that means 100, like a century or a cent. There are 100 pennies in a dollar, or there are 100 years in a century. Mathematicians do not name things creatively. We name things exactly like they are. So we divide by 100, right? That's what a percent means. It's a fraction out of 100. Excellent. Okay. So today we're going to talk about percents. We're going to review percents. What are percents? We've just talked about that a little bit. By the way, have you ever thought of this? I'll show you in a second. And then why do we use them? Do we really need them for statistics? And so let's discuss what we already know about percents. We probably know what the symbol looks like, right? Yeah, we probably know what the symbol looks like. So we're good with that. And we might be able to understand percents a little bit. Like if you got a 90% on a test, most of you would probably go, that's good, right? I'm in. As opposed to if you got a 30% on a test, you would be like, oh, yikes. Right now, we use a lot of percents with COVID, don't we? Yeah, we're hearing it all the time. Can anyone think of some of the percents that we're hearing? Not the numbers, but what they represent. What are we looking at?
The percent of survival rate.
Say it again. Sorry.
The percent of like the survival rate.
Yeah, survival rate. Thank goodness survival rate's pretty good, right? Especially in our age groups. Well, we're not in the same age groups, but I'm still in the okay age group, just FYI, in case you were checking. Okay. I'm not 80 and up, right? Their survival rate's a little less than mine. So has anybody been following the positivity rate? That's a big thing, right? The percent. So they test a bunch of people and then they report how many of those people are testing positive, and they report it in a percentage. So they're saying that we're starting to get the virus under control when it's under 5%. So 5% or less. Does anyone know what ours is right now? I have not looked recently. I'm sure I can. It's been up as high as 20, like 24%, which is way too high when you compare it to 5%, right? Which is supposed to be under control. I'm going to look it up right now. Positivity rate, Arizona. And it's interesting because you could look Maricopa County, you could look Pima County, you could look all of these things, right? It looks like right now we're at 18%. Not good, right? Not good. when they talk about like when it's safe to be in schools and things like that, they want it to be around 10% or less. That's what our government guidelines have been. That's what our Governor Ducey has put out in his metrics along with our state health department. But so we see percents all the time. We understand them, right? They make sense to us. They almost make more sense than other things like fractions or decimals. Sometimes when you get a quiz back and you're like, okay, I got a 18 out of 27. You're like, what is that? 18 out of 27. Did I do good? Did I do bad? Like I don't even get that. So a lot of times we convert it to a percentage so we understand, oh, was that an A? Was that a B? You know, what was that? Does that seem sensible to you? Okay. So now, like I said, I have this in that doc in the chat for you, but you can just follow along. I'm going to ask you to do some math today. You can use a calculator. We'll talk about when, when it's great to use a calculator, when you might not have to use a calculator and things like that. Okay. All right. So now I just have to find you guys. Hold on one second. My screens tend to go all over the place. Can you see my iPad? Yay, it says fraction to decimal on there. So if you pulled up that doc in the chat, you're going to notice it's just a big worksheet with all of these problems on it. I don't think you need it, but I do provide it in case you want it. So sometimes we're given a fraction and we want to convert it to a decimal. Some of you might know how to convert it to a decimal easily. Some of you might not. Okay. So you have a couple choices. Any ideas on this problem? 3/4 as a decimal. How do you do it?
Take the denominator and divide it in the numerator.
Okay, perfect. You can do division, right? You can do, oh, I don't know why that's so thin. 3 divided by 4. And you could do it on a calculator, 3 divided by 4, right? We can do that. You just have to make sure you put the numbers in the right order. Because if you do 4 divided by 3, you're going to get a different answer than if you do 3 divided by 4. So be careful. I'm going to do it old school, like long way, right? Just to kind of practice. You don't have to. I just want to show you. Remember long division, you said 4 doesn't go into 3 at all. So I put a 0 there. And then I can add a decimal point and put a 0. I just bring this decimal point right up. 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. And then I subtract. I can add another 0. Bring that down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. And I have no remainder. So my solution of 3/4 as a decimal is this. So some of you might do long division, right? Or you might do division on your calculator. There are a couple other options. Okay, here's one other option. If I can write it with a denominator of 100, I already have my percent, right? So what do I multiply 4 by to make it 100? I multiply it by 25. So whatever I do down here, I need to do up here. 3 times 25 is 75. So now I have 75 hundredths, which is the same as this decimal right here, 0.75. Did anyone think of money? Yeah, some of you. Yeah, so 3/4, you're like, oh, if I have 3/4, I have 75 cents. That's 0.75. You're on it. Good job. Did anyone remember proportional reasoning from a long time ago? You might have had a teacher who did something like this, similar to what I did, but you cross multiply. Do you remember doing something like that? Where you do 3 times 100 and then divide it by 4? You'll still get the same answer. I promise. Works. Not a big deal. Is there a huge lag on your screen? Are you seeing any of my writing? Can you see my writing? All of it? Yeah, see, I didn't think so. That's stupid and laggy. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can connect with my iPad. This will be a fun game. Okay. So you know how to do it. While I'm connecting again, what I want you to do is try these 3 problems. Try 4/5 as a decimal, 7/10 as a decimal, and 5/7 as a decimal. You can do them on your calculators. You can do it by hand. Doesn't really matter. So try those 3 problems that are on that worksheet. I don't think you can see them on my screen. The 3 fractions are, I can put them in the chat. No worries, Marty. All right. Sorry, it's taking longer than I thought. I don't know why it's so laggy. It's super irritating. Okay, so 4/5 is the first one, then 7/10, then 5/7. Okay. And if you need to, if necessary, round to the nearest 10th.
Are we typing our answers in the chat or just figuring it out?
You're going to type them in the chat. I'm so happy you said that. So you're going to type them in the chat and you can just say 1 is this, 2 is this, 3 is this. Just don't hit enter until you're done. And I mean, until we're all done. Okay. Oops. So can you see my iPad screen now? Again? Yes? Okay, good. And if I scroll up, do you see all this writing that you couldn't see? Yeah. So now I'll be better. I'm hoping. If it gets real laggy, let me know. All right. If you're done with all 3 of them, you just hit enter on 3, 2, 1, go. If not, it's okay. You can do it when you're ready. Nice. And you can compare your answers to others in our class and see if you're getting the same thing as everybody else. Very nice, Olivia. Let's talk about that last one, 5/7. When you do that on your calculator and then you round it to the nearest 10th, which place value is the 10ths?
First number.
Yeah, it's just that first place value. So if we were going to round there, what would we have our answer? Yeah, so we're not doing percents yet. We were just making them decimals first, right? We'll talk percents in a little bit. We're on our way. So do you see? There's my answers. 0.8, 0.7, which I think everybody got correct. It's that last one. This is what it came out to on your calculator, right? Some long number. But if we're rounding to the nearest 10th, we want to make it just 0.7. Okay. So let's say you're taking a test and it says round to the nearest tenth, and you put in 0.714, is it going to mark you right or wrong?
Wrong.
Yeah, it's going to mark you wrong. So be very careful, right? And that's why it's going to be important to show your work, because even though you're taking the test online, you upload your work. And if I see you put in, let's just say you put in 0.714, and I can see that on your paper where you wrote it out, then I can just take off points for a rounding error instead of marking the whole question wrong, right? Because Canvas will just mark the whole question wrong. Okay, so let's keep going. By the way, if you looked at that worksheet, I think a really nice visual is this triangle. The F stands for fraction, the D stands for decimal, the P stands for percent. And we just did this part of the triangle. We went from fraction to decimal. And how do we do that? We usually divide. Okay, so that's just a nice reminder of how to do things. All right. So how do you go from a decimal to a percent? Anyone tell me how to do this one? If we have 0.75, what is that as a percent? And what's your mathematical procedure to get there?
Move the decimal 2 places to the right.
Very nice. And what is that mathematically that we're doing? When we move our decimal point 2 places to the right, what are we doing? Oops.
You're dividing 100.
I don't know why my headset is so quiet today, and I adjust my volume and it says it hates me. So just so you know. What we're really doing is multiplying by 100. So if you took your calculator and took 0.75 and multiplied by 100, thank you, Amari. He put it in the chat. Good job. It moves that decimal point 2 to the right. And so 0.75 is 75%. Yes? Not a problem? Okay. Try these three. Try these three. Don't put them in the chat until we're all done and I say 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. So again, you have 1, 2, and 3. This time they're all percents. You're going from decimal to percent. And you're going to put them in the chat, but not quite yet. All right. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. All right. So most of us got the same kinds of answers for the first two, but that last one was a little challenging. And that's why I made it that way, is so we make sure we know what we're doing. Remember, when we multiply by 100, it's going to shift our place value 2 to the right. So that's 23%. If this is not working for you, right? If that's not working for you, use your calculators. That's not a bad thing, right? So use your calculators if you need to. So if you do 0.215 times 100, it's going to give you 21.5%. right? Okay, so let's look at that last one. If we multiply it by 100, what would this last one be? 109%. Now that's a great test score, right? That's what you want for your test score. So why is that percent larger than 100? Can anyone tell me why it's larger than 100? Any ideas? Okay, because of the 0.09. Do you think, notice all these numbers are smaller than 1 until we get here. This number is larger than 1. Okay, so if we have a number larger than 1, then our percent is going to be greater than 100. Do we ever see things besides extra credit where we have higher than 100%? When do we see percents that are higher than 100%?
Sometimes when data increases, so if you're like watching a pattern, something can increase by like over 100%.
Very nice. What other examples?
Extra credit.
Extra credit? Absolutely. How about in real life? Like when you go to the store, do you ever pay more than 100% for things? We actually do every day. Do you know why we pay more than 100%? It's called tax. Yeah, you ever paid tax on anything? Yeah, you do all the time. You buy something at a store, it costs $1, you don't pay $1 for it, right? You pay like $1.07 or $1.08, right? And it's kind of irritating, just in case you're wondering. I don't know about you, but we have to pay for things somehow. So the tax rate in Mesa and really around the Phoenix area in general is about 9%. So that's kind of a nice example, right? You're paying, when you buy something at a store, you're paying 109% for it. Yeah? Crazy? Never thought about it before. Anyone know the markup on certain things like jewelry? It's about 400%. Yeah. The markup on jewelry is like 400%. I love your faces. You're like, that's insane. It's true. That's why you see these crazy prices on things, right? So the markup on jewelry is really, really high. Yeah. Crazy, crazy. All right. Some of you, I've sent you private chats about your videos. I need them on or I'm moving you out of class. How's that? Since you haven't responded yet. I've been as nice as I can be. Okay. So I need them on. I need to see your faces. Yes? All right. Like Angelina, I can see the top of your head, can't see your face. AJ, I can see the top of your head, can't see your face. Jendai, can't see anything. Olivia and I have already talked, so if you're wondering why I'm not picking on Olivia. Okay. Okay. So it's important that we keep our expectations high. Part of teaching is me seeing your facial expressions. How are you doing with, right? If I can't see that, I can't be an effective teacher. If you did not want to turn on your camera, you should have signed up for an on-only class. Yeah. So I'm very patient, very nice until we don't meet expectations anymore, right? Once we don't meet expectations, I'm going to hold you to those expectations. Okay. Okay. If you don't like the way you look, hide your self-view. You don't have to look at yourself. I love the way all of you look. Okay. So I love looking at your faces every single day. That's why I'm a teacher, right? So if you don't love the way you look, I appreciate that. Maybe you had a rough night. Maybe you didn't get ready this morning, whatever it is. We're not judging you, okay? Or at least I'm not. I'm hoping you don't care if anybody else is because we're just trying to pass math here, right? That's what we're trying to do, pass our math class, okay? Does everybody know how to hide their self view if they want? So if you click on the 3 dots in your little box and you scroll down, the 5th choice says hide self view. And then you don't see yourself anymore. That's kind of nice, right? So if it makes you less nervous, then or less I don't know what it would be called. I can't think of words right now, but that's great. I know it's uncomfortable for some of you. If you type to me in the chat, we can have a conversation about it, right? Privately. But until then, this is what we signed up for. All righty, here we go. So you could fill out the next part of the triangle if you wanted to. We went from decimals to percents. I'm very specific when I do it. So multiply by 100 and add the percent sign. If you like the little trick of moving your decimal point 2 to the right, if that makes sense to you in your head, you could write that down too. But some of you don't know what that's really doing, or you do it wrong sometimes where there's a decimal point. So if you always just think multiply by 100, it's totally going to work. Okay. All right. Good job. How about from a percent to a fraction? This is one we already know, but do we know how we got there? Do we know how we get there mathematically? 75%. How would we get to the fraction? What's our procedure? Keep, change, flip. What does that mean, Jenday? What do I do? Valerie says divide by 100. Put it over a whole. Boy, I have lots of interesting answers, right? I have keep, change, flip. I have divided by 100. I have put it over a whole. I'm not sure what any of those mean yet. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying I need more clarification. What about proper fraction? Divide by 100. Amari says divide by 100. That was the same thing Valerie said. So can you tell me, like, am I just supposed to pick up this guy and divide by 100? Amari, Valerie, is that what I'm supposed to do to get my fraction?
I mean, you could, but nah. I would
So what do you
just
want me to do? Tell me what you want me to do, Amari.
take the 75, take the percent off, and divide it by 100.
Oh, okay. So you want me to take the 75, and when you say divide by 100, tell me exactly what to write. What do I want to write right here?
Write the like the line fraction underneath the 75, and then
Oh,
100.
nice. A fraction bar and then 100. Yeah, because that is dividing by 100. I agree with you, Amari and Valerie. Excellent. So 75 over 100. Now, is that my answer? That is a fraction.
No.
How do I get to my answer?
Honestly,
Yeah, Valerie's helping you out. And Amari, that wasn't directed just at you. We got lots of people in here that can help. So prime factorization is what Valerie said. You can do that. That totally works. I don't have a problem with that. We need to simplify this fraction. Do you agree? It is a fraction. It's just not all the way simplified. So you have a couple choices. We could do, if you see something like this, if you know that 3 times 25 is 75 and 4 times 25 is 100, then once I have multiplication and I have the same factor, those simplify to 1, and I would get that 3/4. Prime factorization, what Valerie was saying in the chat, is you would have 3 times 5 times 5, because those are all prime numbers, over 4 times 5 times 5, because those are all prime numbers. And then every time you have the same number numerator to denominator, those simplify to 1. And so I still get 3/4. Did anyone think of doing it this way? Because some of you are like, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at fractions. Like, I don't know how to simplify this. It's okay. I'm going to show you how to do it on the calculator in just a minute. Okay. But in the meantime, did anyone go like this? I'm going to divide by 5. I'm going to divide by 5. So, because I know that 75 ends in 5 and 100 ends in 0. So I'm going to do 75 divided by 5 is 25. And wait, 5. It's hilarious. No. 15. Right? 15. Feel better about that? I do. And then 100 divided by 5 is 20. And then you go, uh-oh, there's another 5 in there, right? So I'm going to divide by 5 again, divide by 5 again, and I'm going to get that same answer of 3/4. So notice I got 3/4 a bunch of different ways. Okay. But, and you're like, I couldn't have gotten that 3/4 any of those ways. Well, you could have, because you could use your calculator, right, to help you. And so how you do it on a calculator, and I'll show you the Demos calculator too, because it's super helpful. But if you take 75 divided by 100, most of your calculators are going to give you a decimal. Yeah. Your calculator gives you a decimal. So there's a button on this graphing calculator that'll get you to the fraction. You hit math and then you hit number 1 and it gives you the fraction. And mine literally says, I don't think you can see it. Mine says 3/4 right there. If you have a scientific calculator, which I apparently threw mine away, was right over here. Oh, if you have a scientific calculator, it's a button we talked about the other day. It might say, let me see it on here, F to D, fraction to decimal, and it's above a number. Okay. And so you might have to use your second button for that. Otherwise, let me put up the Desmos scientific calculator because you'll love this. And I can put it in the chat if you need it. So if I say 75 divided by 100, do you see how it gives me the decimal? But if I push this right here, it gives me the fraction. Nice. It's way easier than your calculators probably. Yeah. So the Desmos calculator, let me put it in the chat right now. And I highly recommend you bookmark this. You'll use it all the time. And you can use it on tests and quizzes. Okay. So do you like that button? Is there anybody who has this calculator or a Casio or a scientific that doesn't know where to find this button on their calculator, how to get it from a decimal to a fraction or the other way? Valerie, you know how to do it? Excellent. Anyone else need help with their device? Anyone using the Desmos one now? Yeah, the Desmos one is really, really nice. Let me tell you, it's very, very helpful. Anybody using a different app on their phone? Like Wabbit Emu, that's a good one. AJ, which app are you using?
Just the one on my phone. Just this app that's calculator. It's actually pretty good.
Okay, so here's the downfall of practicing with that one. You can't use that during the test.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so be careful. Practice with what you're going to do on the test. So if you're going to use Desmos, practice with the Desmos. Valerie, if you're going to use that calculator, then use that. Here's the good news too. Let's say at the last minute, you're so used to using this calculator and then it dies in the middle of the test. I know that never happens to you, but it's happened to me before. So then you can use the Desmos calculator, right? Because it's linked at the top of your test. And we'll practice that next week. Okay, so everybody okay with that? All right. So now you do these three problems: 15%, 4%, and 7.5%. And you want to make them fractions. Fractions. That's what I'm looking for. Simplified fractions. And again, we'll put them in the chat, but just don't hit enter until everybody's done. This one I'll give you a little more time on since you have to flip some buttons. If you have questions for me, you can type them directly to me in the chat as well. Okay. Sorry, there's the Desmos calculator. I thought
Wait.
I put it to everyone.
Fractions, percent of fractions. Did I hear that right?
Yep, percent of fraction. Can you see my screen? No. Did it go away? Can you see my iPad screen still? Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, there should be three questions and you can see them on your paper. It's 15%, 4%, and 7.5%. Oh, and my screen says write it as a decimal, but I just said write it as a fraction. So we're going to write it as a fraction. All right, you guys just anxious to give the answers? Some of you. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. So it looks like the first one was okay. The second one was okay. The third one might be a little troubling for some people, right? So the first one was fine. The second one was fine. It's that third one that's problematic. Am I right? So let's take a look. So here's my answers. So 15, you just put it over 100 like Amari and Valerie told us, and then you simplify that fraction. So 15 100 is the same as over 20 because they're both divisible by 5. 4 over 100 simplifies to 1 over 25 because they're both divisible by 4. Then this last one is the one that's troubling to us because if you looked at it, you might say 7.5 over 100. And then you're like, what is that? If you do it on your calculators, let's look at what Desmos does because I don't know what Desmos does. I can't remember. So let's take a look. If I put 7.5 and I even just say over 100, oops, it didn't like that. Let's do 7.5 over, oh, geez, oh, Pete, over 100. Still makes the fraction correct. I'll show you mathematically what it's doing, but Desmos didn't care that I put a decimal inside the fraction. It fixed it for me. Okay, so Desmos is really nice. Let's talk about mathematically what that's doing, just in case you're freaking out, like what's happening. So the first thing we would do is put it over 100. Now, I could multiply the top by 10 and the bottom by 10, which would change my math to 75 over 1,000. And then I could simplify that fraction if I want. If you don't like that there's a decimal inside that fraction. These are both divisible by 25. And I would get that 3 over 40. Okay. Any questions on your calculators or how to do it by hand or anything like that? That third one was tricky. Notice I already had it with a little asterisk by it that it's a challenge. So Jen Day, don't worry that you got stuck on that one. That's why I picked that, right? So we could go over it in class. So if you get a weird problem like that, you can figure it out. Anyone need help with their device? Any other questions on that one?
In the future, if there is always a decimal, is it always times 10?
Not necessarily. The reason I did times 10 was because there was only one decimal place right here. If it would have said 0.75%, I would have put 0.75 over 100. And then I need to get rid of both of those decimal places. So instead of multiplying by 10, I would multiply by 100, which would make that 75 over 10,000, which would make that 3 over 400 instead of 3 over 40. So you multiply by whatever power of 10 will make the decimal a whole number. Great question, Aaron. Everybody doing okay? Okay, so we went from percent to fraction, right? We had a percent. How do we go to a fraction? We off the percent, we put the number 100 and we simplify if necessary. Or Desmos simplifies for you, right? So, which is totally fine. You have these tools at your disposal. All right. So if you look at our triangle, we actually went all the way around our triangle this way, right? We went this way around our triangle. What if we go this way around our triangle? Is that okay? So instead of going from fraction to decimal percent, can we go from fraction to percent, percent to decimal, decimal to fraction? It's pretty nice. You just reverse those processes, right? So this one we already know how to do. It says write each fraction as a percent. We already answer because we've done this a bunch, but what's our procedure? Like if we were doing it on a calculator, how would you know how to do this? Or mathematically, what would you do?
Same thing you do to get a decimal, and then just move your decimal place.
Nice. You actually just do 2 steps, Malachi. You're totally right. So first get a decimal. So do 3 divided by 4 like we did before, which would give us 0.75, right? And you could do it on your calculator. And then we need to take that 0.75 and multiply it by 100 to get that 75%. So we need to do 2 steps in order to go from a fraction all the way to a percent. And the 2 steps that we take is we divide the numerator by the denominator. We multiply by 100. Do both of those things, right? For how many of you is this whole thing review? Like you've seen all of this before? Yeah. How many of you are like, well, I've seen it before, but I'm a little rusty, right? Yeah, a little rusty. That's why we're reviewing it. Before I start statistics, and I expect you to be able to change percents to decimals, decimals to percents, fractions, all of those things. So we're just doing all this skill practice before I dump you in statistics, which will be less familiar, right? And you have to do all of this other math. Okay, so now try these three. How would you write these as percents? Okay, write these fractions as percents. And again, you can type them in the chat. Just don't, spoiler alert, don't ruin it for everyone, right? You can type it to me directly whenever you want. I know you guys all work at different rates. So if you send me a direct chat, I usually respond right away, right? So, and you'll get those direct chats back, which is really nice. Ooh, I feel like you like chatting with me better than you like chatting with the whole class. Is that true? Yeah. Okay, that's fine. That's good. I think it's kind of fun to chat with the whole class because then you're like, oh, you know, like I got the same answer as someone else, or we both got the wrong answer, which is even better because then you're like, okay, now I feel like at least I'm not the only one who got the wrong answer. And it helps me see what's happening. So good job, guys. And I try to answer all of them in the chat, but sometimes if it's a little fast, sometimes I'll just say it out loud. Like I'll be like, oh, AJ, great job, right? Because I got too many in a row. So good job. All right. Oh, do you guys, those of you that didn't answer me directly, do you want to do a 3, 2, 1, go? 3, 2, 1, go. Go ahead and put them in if you got them. Very nice, Amari. Good job, Jende, Malachi, Yesenia, Aaron. Look at that. See? So some of it's just rusty, right? You just haven't done it a long time. So you just need to refresh, right? So that's what we're doing. Excellent. So there's those. Now, what if we go from a percent to a decimal? Remember, before we went from a decimal to a percent. But what if we go from a percent to a decimal? How do we do it?
You move the decimal point over from the end of the 75
Which way?
to the left,
How many spots?
2 spots.
Okay. Move decimal 2 places left. Oops. All right. So a good point that Amanda made is because I don't even see a decimal point right now. So the decimal point must be right here at the end of the number if there's no decimal point there. Because if I put it anywhere else, it wouldn't be a 75, right? Okay, so I'm going to move it to the left 2, which, what is that doing mathematically?
Divide by 100.
Yep, it's dividing by 100. So it, just in case you can't remember, oh, which way am I supposed to be moving it? Left or right? So we divide it by 100. That would give us 0.75. Very nice. Okay, and if you notice on the next slide, I explained that, right? Divide by 100 moves the decimal to the left by 2. So just in case you feel like you're all on top of it in class and then you go to do homework and you're like, I have no idea what's happening anymore. It's like I blanked out. You can always review my slides. Okay. And they're in two places. They're on Canvas in the module of the current week, but they're also in the OneNote notebook. So if you want to use, if you like OneNote, that's your new thing, you could use that. Okay, try these three, write them as decimals. Again, don't chat it to everybody until I say, but you can privately chat to me anytime. Very nice to Shay, AJ, Ashley. Valerie. Very nice, Malachi and Amari and Dom. That I was hoping you wouldn't get tricked by that last one, right? So this one is 0.15, 0.04, and this would be 0.075. Angelina, great job. Dom, great job. I don't know if you have ever wondered, do I need this 0 here or not? Right? It shouldn't, the homework system we're using shouldn't mark you wrong if you don't put it there, but it's always a good idea just to write it, just for if you've ever read your own numbers incorrectly. Yeah, sometimes it's a little tricky because sometimes your decimal point doesn't look super. It should work out either way. Should work out either way. And I noticed a mistake on my next slides. And so does anyone see the mistake I made on my slide, on my answer slide? What mistake did I make?
The percent.
Yeah, this should not be here. This right here should not be here. And that's a very common mistake. So common, I even made it. So I'll make sure I correct that. I corrected it on my live slides, just not this PDF. So let's go over number 3. Okay. So remember, our steps said divide by 100. Divide by 100. So if you divide by 100, just do it on a calculator even, because that's sometimes we make a silly mistake on that. Sorry, if we take 7.5 and then we divide it by 100, it tells me that my decimal answer would be 0.075. And the reason is, if you were doing it by hand, this is the mistake people make. So let's write it. I'm going to write it a little bit bigger. 7.5%. We take off the percent sign. We divide by 100, which shifts our place value 2 to the left. So we're going to go 1 to the left and then 2 to the left. Notice there's nothing here. So my decimal point is here, but I need something here in this placeholder. So that placeholder has to be a 0. So sometimes people forget that when they're shifting it that way, they might need to add that 0 in. Does that help you guys? Yeah. Same thing is true. Like, let's say I had, let's say I had 2.3 as a decimal. That was my decimal. And I want to make it a percent. So to make it a percent, I have to multiply by 100. So when I multiply by 100, I shift it 2 to the right. This wouldn't be 23%, right? Because I need this placeholder. This would be 230%. So it's the same thing as when you're multiplying, you might have to add a 0. When you're dividing, you might have to add a placeholder or a 0 to the right of that decimal. Does that help? Excellent. All right. So to percent to decimal, we divide by 100 and remove the percent sign. Decimal to fraction. This one's tricky for people. Anyone have trouble with decimal to fraction? Yeah, how do we do this? Anyone have any idea? A lot of you know what the fraction is, right? But only can coincidentally because I gave you a decimal that you really know. How do you do it otherwise? Any ideas? There's two ways you can do it. You can make it a percent first and then write it over 100 and use that procedure if you want. This is how I do it. Jende says, just look at what's after the decimal. So, and then what do you do with that, Jende? Do you put it over 100 and simplify the fraction? Perfect. Absolutely. You can total do that. So when you look at this, believe it or not, nobody taught you this before, but you should read decimals mathematically. We shouldn't be reading them as 0.75. That's why none of us know what's going on, right? We should be reading this as 75 hundredths. Weird, because this number ends in the hundredth spot, right? This is the tenths, and this is the hundredths. So if it just said this, we would read it as 75. But since I put a decimal point in front of it, I read it where the decimal ends, and it ends in the hundredths place. So it's 75 hundredths, which when I read it mathematically, then I write 75 hundredths, which is exactly what this fraction looks like. And then I do exactly what all of you are saying in the chat. Perfect. Then I simplify the fraction, which we already went over how we do, right? On our calculator. So that's 3/4, or we could do it by hand. Very nice. Try these three. Oh, these two. Just kidding. And again, you can privately chat them to me. Just don't chat them to anybody yet. Valerie, nice. AJ, nice. Amanda, nice. Angelina, nice. Malachi, nice. Anyone else? We can do a 3, 2, 1 if you didn't do it yet. Good job. So some of you might have done something like this, and this is a great math connection. Some of you might automatically said, oh, this ends in the tenths place. So I'm just going to write 8 tenths, which simplifies to 4/5. Some of you didn't quite simplify, right? So 8 over 10 simplifies to 4/5. And remember, your calculator will do it for you. And this is 7 over 10 because it ends in the tenths place. But some of you might have automatically looked at that and said, oh, that's 80 over 100 just because we've been in percent town all day. And that's 70 over 100. But then you can simplify those. Was anyone taught to do something like this? Anybody taught to do that? What is that doing mathematically when we do something like that? Why are we allowed? Anyone? No? Malachi?
They're dividing each other. I forget, but something like that, right?
Yeah, you're totally right. We're dividing the numerator and the denominator by 10. That's what we're really doing. Okay, so, but teachers used a little shortcut, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I figured some of you have seen it. So what they're really doing is 8 times 10 over 10 times 10, and then they're simplifying these 10s and just saying, okay, that's 8 over 10, which again, then we have to simplify 8 over 10. We can simplify that, sorry. If we make that 4 times 2 over 5 times 2, then these 2's simplify, and we end up with that 4/5. So you might know some shortcuts, but you might not know why they work, right? Okay, I'm going to stop us right there. I know it's kind of a boring day, but that's okay. Much different than our box office yesterday. We had a couple more slides that we didn't get through. Actually, we didn't. We got through all of them. We just had to finish our triangle. I have some practice that we're going to do in class on Monday, so you don't have to worry about that. I do have your exit ticket. I'll put it in the chat. And then you have a percent preview assignment. It's now on our system called More, and it's due by tomorrow night. Tomorrow night. It's not very long, just in case you're wondering. Okay. It's just some videos and things like that. So it's not very long. It's due by tomorrow night. And then make sure you do your exit ticket. And then have a great weekend. Don't forget your office hours assignment or anything. I know it's Thursday, and I just said have a great weekend. Jende, question?
What time is your office hours? Because I heard you say that you do some tonight if we didn't make the morning.
Nope, I did them last night, 7:30
Oh,
to 8:30
dang.
p.m.
Oh.
Yeah. So now, when's your only choice for my office hours? Anyone?
I think tomorrow. What is tomorrow?
I have no office hours on Friday. Monday, what time?
Monday at 8.
Yay, 8 a.m., not p.m.
Wait,
Monday,
but
8
that
a.m.
assignment due Sunday though?
It's due Monday night, I think. If it's not due Monday night, I'll make sure it is. I think it's February 1st.
Oh, that is Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I saw Sunday. Okay, well then I'll see you at 8 a.m. Monday morning.
Yay! You're not alone, Jende. There's lots of you. Perfect, Valerie. Just stay after for a minute, okay?
All right. See you
Bye,
Monday.
AJ. Have a good
Bye-bye.
weekend.